Mr Speaker.
Andrew Bailey.
Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to be talking about National's approach to climate and environmental issues, particularly as I'm a member of the National Blue-Greens caucus, which does comprise a significant number of National MPs. National has been active in this space, and rightly so. As the Governor of the Bank of England recently spoke of, he said that in the Northern Hemisphere over the last 30 years, it's been the warmest since Anglo-Saxon times, and atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases are at levels not seen for 800 years. And it's not surprising that insurance losses from weather-related events have increased from the 1990 levels of about 10 billion per annum to about 50 billion in the last 10 years, So this government understands this dimension and has put together a whole raft of measures to deal with climatic and environmental issues in New Zealand. My colleagues have previously talked about it, and the Honourable Dr Smith talked about what we're doing in the freshwater and oceans arena around clean air initiatives, as well as other initiatives such as dealing with waste and cleaning up contaminated sites. And of course, we heard from the Honourable Maggie Barry and Nikki Wagner about conserving our environment through an excellent range of initiatives around protecting our natural flora and fauna. I do like the term battle for the birds and the war of weeds. Today, I want to focus on climatic changes and the initiatives we've put in place around clean energy and electric vehicles. Now, the forthcoming UN conference on climate change in Paris, we've already committed to a gas emission target reduction to 30% of 2005 levels to be achieved by 2030. Now, this is meaningful, contrary to a lot of thought and comments. For instance, Canada put in place exactly the same targets, and Australia and the US have put in a target of 26 to 28 to be achieved in roughly the same period of time. It's also interesting to note that our emissions as a country have risen from 71 million metric tonnes in 1995 to 85 million metric tonnes in 2005, but have now decreased back to 81 million tonnes at the moment. Now, part of that reason for that reduction was because this government put in place the new ETS scheme, which came into place 1st of July 2010. And whilst the ETS system and the pricing has fluctuated significantly, although I do note it's currently just under $7, the volumes traded on our ETS have actually been relatively constant, about 18 million tonnes per year, which is quite a significant component of the 81 million that we generate every year. But as most of us were aware, 50% of our emissions are generated by the agricultural sector, and it is pleasing and really good that this government has invested heavily and shown a lead in terms of sponsoring research into the emissions from the bovine sector. It's also important in terms of carbon sequestration that the government has committed another 22.5 million over the next 6 years to encourage new forestry plantations. Now, the remaining 50% of our emissions largely come from transport and energy. And we as New Zealanders should be really proud that roughly 80% of all our energy produced in New Zealand comes from clean energy sources such as geothermal, hydro, clean and photovoltaics. And this puts us up amongst the top 4 nations in the world. Now, the recent announcement for the closure of the 2 power plants at Huntly, they're coal-based, and the gas-fired power station at Otahu Southland plant will further help us achieve our clean energy target of 90% by 2025. And when you think about the $1 trillion that have been invested over the last 10 years around the world, this is why it's important that New Zealand continues to encourage this new technology. Now, the other exciting area that I find personally really exciting is what is happening in the transport sector. And only just this morning, the Honourable Simon Bridges made an announcement that the EECA have put in place a scheme to allow fleet managers to assist assess the total cost of diesel electric vehicles, and we have got good moves in New Zealand to implement and adopt clean energy and electric vehicles.
The time for this debate has expired. I call on government